Designing Worlds is brought to you by Dutchie. Live your dreams.
Hello and welcome to Designing Worlds, the weekly show about design and designers in virtual worlds, brought to you by Prim Perfect Publications. I'm Elrik Merlin.
And I'm Saffia Widdershins. And this week we've come to Virtual Health Adventures, an estate that's running a project that's exploring the effectiveness of delivering healthcare through a virtual world environment by working with amputees to explore ways of best helping them adjust to the changes in their lives and working with prosthetic limbs, both upper and lower limb.
We're standing at the entrance of the main public area of Virtual Health Adventures, and we're joined today by Dr. Sandra Winkler, who's leading this project, by Jim, who's one of the clients here on the island, if that's the right word, and by Eme Capalini, who's the chief builder here.
Welcome to the show, all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, can you tell us something of the background to this project? I know we're going to see many different aspects, but the core of it is, I believe, an academic research project.
Exactly. This was research funded by the U.S. Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. We're at the stage now where the grant is wrapping up, and we're transitioning our virtual world to the Amputee Coalition.
So, the project sounds quite broad, but you chose to focus on amputees.
Yes, that's right. I was working with amputees when Operation Iraqi Freedom was announced in 2003. Our warriors were returning from Iraq with blast injuries and resulting amputations, and were wanting to return home. We were challenged by how do we get these amputees together? How do we get them interacting with each other? How do we engage them when they're located all across the country? And so we turned to the internet. My idea then was that the virtual world would be much more exciting than just chats or Skype or telephone or email messages for communication.
So, how did you begin the research project? Were you working with any support organizations in the real world or in-world?
Not in the beginning. I was working with the university who had the award, and we contacted Virtual Ability Incorporated. We physical therapist, Ignacio Guinard, and myself, I'm an occupational therapist, created the self-management intervention, and we looked to Eme and Gentle Heron to translate our information into a virtual world.
Now, I gather the underlying philosophy of this is to essentially put research into action, isn't it? How do you actually do that?
Well, that's a question, and there's really two answers for it. First of all, as an occupational therapist and my partner, physical therapist, we were looking at new ways to engage amputees in their self-care, their conditioning. A lot of people who may have been in physical therapy would be sent home with little stick figures on a piece of paper showing them how to do their exercise. And so in this project, we want to move doing your exercises and maintaining your health beyond stick figures. We want to show amputees and actually give them a chance to practice the desired behavior that we are trying to teach them. But the other way that we're putting this research into action is the research project is actually about over. But some amputees, including Jim and the project, have wanted to sustain this project beyond the academic funding. And so Jim has championed transitioning our research project to the Amputee Coalition. And so once the research is over, this virtual world will be available to amputees all over the world.
That's brilliant. So, shall we go inside and have seats? I know that weirdly we all generally feel more comfortable chatting when we sit down in Second Life. But Jim, would that be more comfortable for you, or do you find it easier to stand and chat?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, let's go inside.
So, Jim, I was wondering if I could ask you about your own story, about how you came to be involved with Virtual Health Adventures and about your own experiences of becoming an amputee.
My adventure started in 2012. I was a diabetic. I developed an ulcer on my big toe, and 3 surgeries later became a right side below knee amputee. 2014, my good foot decided that it wanted a vacation, so I had that amputated, and I'm now a bilateral below knee amputee. After I lost the first leg, it wasn't too big a deal other than standing my leg in the corner at night. My life kind of went on. When I became bilateral, my life changed radically. It's significantly more difficult to walk, not having either leg, no balance, no true sense of where the floor is, and I was looking for ways to help me overcome that. And looking around on the internet, that's how I ran into Dr. Winkler's research project, and that's what got me started in Second Life and Virtual Health Adventures.
All right. Have you found Virtual Health Adventures helpful?
Extremely so. Going through all of the stations, listening to what was said. Initially, I didn't give it a lot of credence, but I actually, the next day after seeing one of the stations, I was able to use the information I had, and for the first time, forgive me, for the first time in months, I was able to walk on my own.
That's fantastic. Eme, if we can turn to you for a moment, can you tell us a little about this building? Can you tell us something about its form and function?
Sure. We wanted the building to be warm and welcoming, and actually we wanted the entire island to be a fun and interesting place for all the research subjects to come. We weren't exactly sure what we were going to put in the building when we started, but I wanted to make it large enough so it would be flexible. We know, we might dream up of something new and exciting, and I wanted to have plenty of room here. But we have places for people to meet, like we're sitting now, and then we have a place for the animations, and then of course we have information about the project and all the people that are involved with it, all the agencies that are involved. So it's a great place for the public to come and learn about the project and interact with some of the animations that we have here.
Excellent. Now, there's a rather interesting display at the end of this room. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Eme?
I'd love to. The display is an animation of an amputee that is teaching us how he uses his prosthetic to open a bottle and drink. The gentleman in the video was actually being filmed for another video project, and Sandy had the brilliant idea to get him on film teaching us how he uses his prosthetic to do a simple task. So he broke down each step that he uses when he has to open this bottle, and we took those pieces and gave them to our animation and scripting team, and they've turned it into a wonderful display for us.
Today we are going to practice opening a bottle of water. To do that, we need to first open and close the prosthetic hand, and just as we do so, and it's proportion control. So if I flex my tricep very fast, it'll open and close the hand, just like that. But we want to grasp the water bottle tight enough so that we can open the cap of it, but we don't want to crush it. We don't want to hold it too tight. So if I flex my tricep and then ease off of it, kind of like a clutch when you're driving a manual car, it'll stay open. Now I'm not flexing anything right now. My muscles are sedentary. So now to start, I want to flex my tricep, ease off of it to allow my hand to open wide enough that I can then take the water bottle and place it in the hand. And now using my bicep, I will flex my bicep, which will cause my hand to close. And I do it slow enough where I have the control, so now I get to the point using my vision to see that the hand has grasped the water bottle tight enough that now it's not going anywhere, but it's also not tight enough where it's causing the water bottle to crush. And then I simply twist the cap off, put it on the table, and now to take the water bottle out of my hand, I simply flex my tricep, which will cause my hand to open, and now I have the water bottle to drink.
And there's also a rather interesting torso model up there as well.
Yes, the torso model is what you use when you get the avatar to drink the bottle. So you click on the torso and it makes the animations move. So you can do exactly what the guy's doing in the video, but you can do it in world. So that's a pretty cool way to figure out how he's using his prosthetic, and you can do it too.
Yes, that's brilliant.
If I could just add something, what's interesting about using that torso is a new amputee is going to click on, say, the tricep muscle to open the hand and the bicep muscle to close the hand. But once the amputee actually gets their prosthesis, those are the exact muscles they're going to use to perform that action. So they get to practice in advance.
I believe you said something about someone who'd actually started wearing a prosthetic before they had one in real life, so they could practice some of this.
Yeah, that's Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk had his virtual prosthesis and had joined an amputee support group in Second Life before either event occurred in real life. Jim, and there's maybe another 6 amputees that are just absolutely amazing to be championing this project for people all over the world now.
It really is helpful because I realize this is an avatar, but I still control it. It is still me in every sense of the word. And it has empowered me in my own real life to try things that I possibly would not have. And it really has enabled me to walk beyond being stuck in a wheelchair or a walker, and to have some stability doing it.
That's fantastic.
Didn't I hear you're even a dancer now in real life, Jim?
Yeah, we haven't pushed that limit quite that far yet. But I actually have considered it again.
Well, when we started the project, we had no idea how powerful it was going to be. I mean, we knew it was going to be special, and we hoped people would learn from all of this research that Sandy had done. But, you know, when we hear the stories like this, it really is, you know, it just touches us that it, you know, it's made such a difference. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I was just going to reaffirm what she said, you know, and I've talked to some of the other amputees because I actually run the support group here in Second Life, and you know, some of the stories they tell me and the ways that this has helped them, and I can talk to people all over the world, and I actually have people from several different countries in my group.
That's very interesting. Now, I believe that there's a second island where we could see more of these demonstrations, indeed where they're used in education and support.
Yes, the primary purpose of the animations was for education. As I mentioned earlier, what we wanted was for amputees to actually be able to practice the self-management behavior that we wanted to learn. So Eme showed us how we could build animations, say, for example, doing conditioning exercises, doing balance exercises. For example, we'll see the exercise that helped Jim be able to walk for the first time. There's also animations of getting in and out of bed, getting in and out of the wheelchair, walking up and down steps, taking a fall, getting up off the ground, getting in and out of the car, and that type of thing.
Okay, I wonder if we can perhaps go and see the island?
Sure, we'd love to show it to you.
Before we do that, however, we're going to take a short break. But we'll be back in just a couple of minutes to continue our visit to Virtual Health Adventures. So,
don't go away. Radio Real is an internet public radio station with multiple streams on the air daily. We play an extensive variety of music for listeners with eclectic taste, from early music to Victoriana, big band and folk, plus drama and special programs. For more details, visit radioreal.org.
The best things in life are free.
Welcome back to Designing Worlds, the show all about design and designers in virtual worlds. And this week we've come to Virtual Health Adventures, an estate that's running a project that's exploring the effectiveness of delivering healthcare through a virtual world environment.
We've come now to the Research Island, and an area that's very important for amputees first joining the project, a place where the amputees are fitted with their prosthetics. Now, it's not compulsory for amputees here to wear prosthetics, is it?
No, they definitely make that choice whether or not they want to wear a prosthetic. But interestingly, according to the literature, we thought the virtual world would be ideal for amputees that were still grappling with their body image, and they might not want to wear a prosthetic at first, and then as they became more comfortable, they might want to wear a prosthesis. But that has not been the case at all. Every single subject has wanted their prosthesis right away before they even get started with the training, except for one amputee, and interestingly, that amputee was not a candidate for a prosthesis in real life.
Oh, that is interesting. And can you tell us a little about the design of these prosthetic limbs, how they work with the avatar body?
Sure. The prosthetic limbs are a special part of the project. We wanted the amputees to be able to try one on in the virtual world and perhaps be more comfortable in his real life. We've created lower limb above and below knee. We've created the upper limb above and below the elbow, and we've just introduced a new upper limb version that works with a HUD, so you can customize what part of the prosthetic you want to show. So if you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, you can just show the hand. If you're wearing a tank top, you can show the entire prosthetic. So it's and then it will also change the skin color depending on what skin you're wearing. So that will be very helpful for the amputees that have to that want to change their shirt during when they're wearing the prosthetic.
Right, and presumably there's versions for male and female.
Oh, absolutely. We made 2 sizes. One is for females and the other's for males. So everybody has a choice.
Over the other side, I believe you're planning a library, but a rather unusual one. Can you tell us something about this?
Well, we're going to have a talking library. The Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality funded us to provide an evidence-based intervention. So basically that means that the information that we provide amputees has been proven by scientific methods. When we beta tested our self-management intervention, we found that the beta testers, who were both clinicians and amputees, didn't want to read all the evidence, which posed a dilemma to us. Eme and I thought about it, and we thought about it, and we didn't understand why people didn't want to read anymore, but we thought about it again. So we came up with using health bots and artificial intelligence. So our library is going to have an avatar that's going to be like a wizard, and his menu will be, say for example, the amputee can say, I'm an upper limb amputee, I'm a lower limb amputee. And say the amputee says, well, I'd like to know about which prosthetic foot is best for me. I'm getting my first lower limb prosthesis, and I like to do distance running. What evidence is there that shows what's the best foot for me? And then this wizard bot will be able to speak that study. According to this study and this such a date, we found that that's our idea for our speaking library.
Well, that's really cool. Marvelous. Also, here we can see, I gather, a video from a conference you held last January. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We followed Virtual Ability's lead, and we had our very first conference, and this conference was on pain, which is quite prevalent among amputees. Dr. Esquenazi, Dr. Alberto Esquenazi at Moss Rehab in Philadelphia is quite an expert. He is actually an amputee as well. And his colleague, Stanley Yu, specializes in pain. So Dr. Yu and Dr. Esquenazi put together a 1-hour pain conference in our virtual world. Would you like to go look at the video?
I think it's an excellent idea.
Hello. I'd like to thank Dr. Nazi as well as Dr. Sandra Winkler and Second Life for the opportunity to speak with you on this innovative platform. In this day and age, the education of patients on their conditions as well as their different assessment and management strategies has become more feasible on a wider scale basis with the help of technology. The change in how we can disseminate and share information will hopefully promote a shift in the paradigm of healthcare from one in which the clinician takes a very authoritative position and conversations about care are very one-sided, to one in which the physicians, therapists, nurses, and remainder of the treatment team are facilitators in an open conversation about care, and the patient assumes both the right and the responsibility to take an active part in his or her recovery. I think the need for this kind of open, informed conversation is probably the most apparent in the treatment of pain, which is what we'll be discussing today. So what is pain? Shown on the slide are 2 definitions. The top is from Merriam-Webster's dictionary. It defines pain as localized physical suffering associated with the bodily disorder, as in a disease or an injury, a basic bodily sensation induced by a noxious stimulus received by naked nerve endings characterized by physical discomfort. The bottom definition is from Stedman's Medical Dictionary, which describes it as a variably unpleasant sensation associated with actual or potential tissue damage and mediated by specific nerve fibers to the brain, where its conscious appreciation may be modified by various factors. While there are obvious similarities among the two definitions, such as a description of pain as suffering and unpleasant, there are a couple instances in which the medical definition is perhaps more helpful in our understanding of pain. First, it points out that the sensation is associated with actual or potential tissue damage, meaning that there are certain instances in which physical damage may not have actually occurred to cause the pain. This will become important when we talk about some of the different types of pain that may be associated with amputation, particularly phantom pain, where most often there is no new or ongoing damage. Secondly, whereas Webster's dictionary states that pain is only received by nerve fibers, Stedman's makes a distinction that this is something not only received, but mediated by nerve fibers, and therefore can be modified by their interaction, either for better or for worse. So what, then, can we determine from these definitions of pain? Well, we can acknowledge that pain is a symptom and not a diagnosis in of itself. This is an important distinction to make because very often, among patients and clinicians alike, treatment of the pain itself can be the overwhelming focus, while treatment of the cause goes to the wayside. If I were to ask you what would be a more effective solution, placing a bucket under a leaking roof or patching up the hole causing the leak, all of you would say fixing the leak. Same goes for pain. Secondly, we learn that pain is subjective, and therefore, one person's experience of the same noxious stimulus may be very different from someone else's. Pain is also something modifiable, and we know this because there are instances in which the same painful stimulus is experienced differently. For instance, when someone takes a hard hit while playing a sport, which doesn't bother him or her so much in the moment, it can become much more uncomfortable hours later after the game is done. And finally, pain is variable, meaning that it presents in different ways. Not all pain is the same, and so the approach to treating pain should not be the same every time. To demonstrate how pain is transmitted, shown on the right of the slide is an illustration of the pain pathway. From this, you can see that a stimulus is received from the pain-mediated fibers, shown in red, in this case from the foot. They travel up the spinal cord and cross over to the opposite side before traveling up to pass through areas of the brain before finally being received at the surface of the brain in a location called the somatosensory cortex. What is important to note is that anywhere along this pathway, the pain signal can be modified. Pain may be amplified, as it can be with chronic pain or hypersensitivity, or it can be dulled. Signals traveling both up and down the nervous system are what modulate that sensation. When we approach pain management, we do it methodically, as you would approach any other problem. The most effective way to deal with pain is to identify the cause and, of course, address it. As this may not be such a clear-cut thing to do or may take some time to achieve, we also address the symptoms. As there may be multiple causes for the pain that is being experienced, or because there might be numerous factors influencing that pain, we try to use multiple approaches to create the most effective management. Finally, our ultimate goal is to modify that pain response for the better. At this point, I've alluded to the fact that there are numerous possible causes for pain or pain generators related to amputation. Some are more directly related to the amputation itself, or specific to individuals with amputation, while others are secondary or associated conditions. What you see on this slide is not a comprehensive list, but some of the more commonly seen issues, each of which I will be discussing through the remainder of this talk.
Here on the wall is a list of 17 stations. Can you tell me a little more about those?
We organized our self-management training and the 17 stations according to Dr. Alberto Esquenazi's stages of rehabilitation for amputees. So the 17 stations range from the history of amputation to some epidemiology, some information about how prosthetic devices are built, conditioning exercises prior to the amputation if you have the luxury of knowing in advance you're going to have an amputation, conditioning activities of daily living, and there's even a couple stations on social emotional adjustment to amputation. The reason that we put all the stations on the wall is because we don't require amputees to go through all the stations. There's no test. We put it up there so they can see what we have to offer, and they can choose which station they go to in what order, just make it more efficient for them.
Okay, well, let's take a look at a couple of the stations.
And here we are at Station 7, which is a demonstration of moving sideways while using a prosthetic limb. I believe this training is available in different forms.
In this research study, we have a control group and we have an intervention group. What we did is my partner Ignacio Gennard and I created a PowerPoint. Then we gave the PowerPoint to our Second Life developer and our e-learning developer. So the experimental group was randomized to the Second Life virtual world, and the control group was randomized to the e-learning group. So basically, the two groups got the same information. The two groups got both knowledge about self-management, and they got some videos about self-management. Now, to create the videos, we hired amputee actors that had incurred injuries in Iraq and subsequently became amputees. What's different about the virtual world, what's different about the experimental intervention, is they have avatars. So whereas the control group gets the knowledge, they see the videos, the control group does not actually practice what they see in the PowerPoint. So what we're going to show you here is the addition that the intervention group gets by having an avatar that can practice what's being taught.
Jim, is this the exercise you were talking about earlier?
This is one of them, yes. This one helped me learn more stability than I had and enabled me to better control things. The exercise here, and I'll go through it at the same time we're doing the, seeing it on the video up here. What I'm doing is going side to side and lifting my legs up high enough to go over the cones. The reason is, without feet, I don't have a true sensation of where the floor is. So this teaches me to pick up my feet and be able to walk without catching my foot on the floor and falling. It was very helpful to me when I was first learning to do this as a bilateral amputee.
I can see it's quite a tricky exercise. In the video, he's actually knocking one of the cones.
Yes, and I did that a lot in real life.
I can imagine. But yes, I see, and you can actually follow how he's doing it. That's brilliant. So you found these modules very useful?
I found them extremely useful. This and a couple of the others really helped change my life in ways that I wasn't finding other than this. You know, finding this project for me was extremely helpful.
That's wonderful.
It really is. And I believe if we take a walk, we can see more of the stations.
So this one shows you not just how you can fall, it also shows you how to stand up again afterwards.
Absolutely.
This one is interesting. It looks like a garage.
Yes, it is. One of the actors showed us how he puts his wheelchair into his car, so we thought that would be wonderful to animate that. So maybe Jim could sit in the wheelchair and show us how that's done.
Oh wow, I bet you wish it lifted so easily in real
right,
life.
I was just going to say.
This is really a marvellous piece of animation.
Isn't it just?
These do all develop a variety of life skills.
Yes, they do. Teaches you how to get in and out of cars, how to get up and down hills, which, you know, for me especially has been fairly difficult, and it's really been helpful to me to be able to watch myself do the things that I know I have to do to keep going forward in life.
And what has been the response to the avatar-based method as opposed to the more passive online learning?
There's amputees that like it, and there's amputees that don't like it, but the ones that do like it really like it. And we know that because they stay in the virtual world long after they've completed the study.
Well, before we leave this research island, there's a rather fascinating area to see.
We've now come to the Museum of Prosthetics, and it's really astonishing how early some of these prosthetics actually were developed.
The first prosthesis was developed before Christ, and it was made out of iron for warriors who lost a limb during battle. And the prosthetic was forged for them so they could get back on their horse and get back into battle.
The one prosthetic here that kind of gets me the most is the wooden legs, wooden peg legs. For me personally, I know how important it is to have my prosthetic feet, and the concept that I would be walking around on nothing more than two posts it's pretty awesome how far we've come.
Plus, we're the world's only virtual prosthetic museum.
One of the things that strikes me, in addition to the sheer ingenuity different models display, is how often developments seem to come about as a result of war.
That's a pattern that's repeated through history. And as a result of our most recent wars and conflicts, the prosthetics now are becoming more and more robotic, and the prosthetic materials lighter and lighter. We've gone from iron to wood to titanium. It really is amazing.
Wow. And I gather that some of this can be seen on the main island, which is open to the public.
Yes, the similar version of this prosthetic museum is on the second floor of the main building that we were on at the beginning, and it's open to the public.
Now, although there's lots more to see here, and we hope you will come and visit for yourselves, we're going to take a short break, during which you can see a specially created slideshow by our photographer, Wildstar Beaumont. And then We'll be back to learn more about the virtual health adventures. So,
don't go away.
Welcome back to Designing Worlds, the show all about design and designers in virtual worlds. And this week we've come to Virtual Health Adventures, an estate that's running a project that is exploring the effectiveness of delivering healthcare through a virtual world environment.
And now we've come to a rather fine beach house, the Trav Rexon Beach House, which I gather is a social area for members of the project.
Yes, it is. Actually, I run a support group for amputees here in Second Life, and this is where we meet. We meet about every 2 weeks. It's open to all amputees, their families, their caregivers, whomever they need to have to function as a whole person again. And it's been really interesting and really fun so far.
And I believe it's dedicated to the memory of Trav, who in real life was Greg Horn.
Yes, the academic research was awarded to Nova Southeastern University. And Greg Horn was in Second Life very, very early. He loved Second Life. He had avatars that looked like Elvis Presley in his pink Cadillac, and he constructed some games for Linden Labs. And as I was struggling with some of the university regulations about gaming and having fun when you're supposed to be learning, it was Greg and his capacity as Assistant Director of Informational Technology that helped me get this project off the ground. Unfortunately, we've lost Greg to cancer.
Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. As this is still a project that's very much in process, I imagine the data's still being collected, but in terms of anecdotes, can you tell us how people are finding this kind of in-world training?
Well, I have a couple stories I can share with you.
Go ahead.
Just to let you know, I was able to look at my incision point for the first time because of this training. It gave me courage because I saw that I, even in a virtual world, can do things. So I looked. It's hard for a Southern 6'4" man to admit, but it was an extremely powerful and an emotional moment, and I got through it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you have time for another quick one?
Sure.
Yes.
Some of these exercises have been useful. Also gave me an incentive to try walking on the grass in my front yard. I still need to use the forearm crutches as my strength is not what it should be or could be. One of the biggest hurdles that I need to overcome, other than the fear of falling, is my wife will not allow me to go out to physical therapy for strength building. Given all of my issues over the last 5+ years, my wife is worried that I will do something to make matters worse. Even when I'm out walking with the crutches, she always has the wheelchair right behind me, suggesting that I sit down. I know she's just being protective, but it's my desire to be able to get more mobility and maybe just even need a cane, if anything. 5 months later, I've been trying to do at least 2 15-minute workouts each day on my stationary bike. Both strength and stamina are improving. It's still my goal to be able to walk with no more than a cane. I'm down 10 pounds so far, with a goal to get down to a trim 250 from my current 310.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely.
And I believe that quite a community has grown up around this project among the amputees who've taken part, and it's an international community.
That's right. We've got 4 countries represented. The United States, of course, Mexico, Canada, and the United Kingdom.
Are there plans to continue the project beyond the 5 months it still has to run?
Yes, there are. In fact, Sandy and myself have been working diligently with the Amputee Coalition to transition this from being run by Sandy and her research project to being run by them and be a benefit to amputees in America as well as worldwide. And that seems to be coming along pretty well at the moment.
Brilliant. Now, if people want to learn more about Virtual Health Adventures, I gather there's a new YouTube channel. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we've started a channel and we've got 3 videos already online, and we'll be adding more. So please stop by.
That's great. And we'll give details about all that on the Designing Worlds blog.
Sadly, we're running out of time.
I'd like to thank Dr. Winkler, Jim and Eme Capalini for joining us on the show here today.
Thank you for having us.
Our
Yes.
pleasure. I'm
Absolutely.
honored.
We appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Now, don't forget that if you want to see this program again, you'll be able to catch it on the Designing Worlds channel at aviewtv.com or slartist.com, and on the Designing Worlds page at treat.tv or on the Designing Worlds blog.
We hope you'll join us next time when we're visiting the Shonaki Library and learning all about the power of storytelling in Second Life.
But for now, from Virtual Health Adventures, we wish you fair winds and clear waters.
Fair winds and clear waters.
You